I brought a couple guitars.
Cool.
One of them was making a buzzing noise, so I brought it back.
Okay.
And then I got my mini 12 string.
Nice. Do you mind if we take your car?
Sure.
Okay. So you know this area pretty well?
Pretty well. Yeah, I've been in this area for 12 years.
Are you from Atlanta originally?
No, from Miami, Florida.
Really?
Yeah, I was there through high school and then went off to college in Tallahassee and then moved to Atlanta. And I
Wow.
moved here about 97. I started playing when I was 13, and I was playing electric guitar, and I was into hard rock music and into Van Halen and Guns N' Roses, and I got into Hendrix and that kind of stuff as well. And I used to play in bands, and I used to like guitar-driven rock music. I still do.
Yeah. Do you still play electric guitar?
I don't play as much as I used to. I noticed when I'm at home and I'm not in a band and it's just me and I plug in my electric guitar, it's kind of lonely. So I try to play acoustic guitar, when I can. And to me, I can do a lot more on the acoustic, solo than I can on the electric.
Oh, did you take lessons?
Yeah, I took lessons from a lot of different teachers, and pretty much my whole life, since I've been playing guitar. And I had one teacher who was into rock and metal, and then he also knew classical guitar, so he taught me classical guitar. I had another teacher who was into jazz and blues, and I studied at Berklee College of Music one summer when I was in high school, and I went to Interlochen Arts Academy during the summer, so I have a lot of music education background, pretty much stopping at the end of high school. And then since then, I've just been learning on my own and writing music and playing music.
During these lessons, did you start playing acoustic, or were you still playing electric?
Pretty much electric. I didn't have an acoustic guitar until, maybe 5-10 years ago. And in the last, 2 or 3 years, I've been playing a lot of acoustic guitar.
Yeah, I've never heard you play electric.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I still like it, and I'm sure I'll pick it up again, but I'm in a different, phase right now where I'm doing mostly acoustic stuff. When I was in high school, I was in a band, and I would write a lot of music. And it was, hard rock, alternative rock, or whatever. And so I must have been, 14 or 15 when I started writing songs, and it was just writing guitar progressions, a lot of distortion, a lot of high energy kind of stuff. And then I got more into writing, music like I write today. Probably when I was in college, I started writing songs that were, maybe more, didn't have to be played with a band. It could be just a solo guitar.
Were you writing lyrics for those songs?
No, I haven't really written lyrics to any of my music until this last, say, 6 months. I started writing some lyrics.
Right.
And I haven't started singing yet, in public. I'm learning to write songs, and that type of music is a lot different than instrumental guitar music. So with instrumental guitar music, I'm thinking more about, the chords and the melody and the rhythm of it, and trying to make it interesting without having to worry about vocals. Yeah, so I started experimenting with open tunings, and I know Jimmy Page used to do a lot of open tunings, and then I started listening to Kaki King. She's a guitarist, great guitarist, and she does lots of open tunings, and then it kind of opened up a whole world for me where I could now, every time I have a new tuning, it's like all the chord patterns are completely different. I can play open string chords that with shapes in one tuning that sound completely different in the next tuning, and then it leads to a lot of creative ideas. I think there is a genre that's instrumental guitar music that deals with a lot of open tunings, and a lot of it is really cool stuff, and some of it is hard to listen to after a while because it's a lot of the same. So I try not to get kind of stuck in that instrumental alternate tuning guitar genre, if you will. So I like to kind of branch out into rock song forms and pop songs, and then I like bluegrass and fingerstyle guitar. I mean, there's a lot of Chet Atkins kind of stuff that appeals to me, and combining that with alternate tunings, you get a whole new set of things to work with.
It seems like you're probably a really busy guy. I mean, you have 2 kids, right?
Yeah, I have 2 kids, and they're age 5 and 7, and I work full time, so there's not a lot of time for music. So it's really when after the kids are asleep, and I've got between let's say 10 and midnight or 1 o'clock to work on my music.
Do either of them? Well, do you play guitar for either of them, or what's the story behind that?
I play guitar for them, but they don't understand it, or they don't have the patience to sit and listen to me play guitar, so they're kind of running around being crazy, and I'm playing, and it kind of helps me because I can play with any distraction.
Did you play for them when they were babies or anything?
I did that.
They were a little more patient then?
They were no. They were never patient. But I try to play for them, and in fact I bought my daughter a guitar, a pink sparkle guitar, and she didn't play it. And then both of my kids are learning piano, and they seem to be enjoying that, so I'm trying not to push anything too hard on them, but I want them to be musical so we can jam out one day. I think for me, once I started really liking music and liking bands, and I wanted to learn how to play their music, that kind of got me into guitar. But before then, I didn't have anything I was trying to play, so it didn't mean as much.
Are there any advantages or disadvantages to playing an open tuning?
Yeah, I mean, the advantages are you're not really restricted to the traditional, chord shapes. You can come up with all kinds of crazy chords, and you can also come up with infinite number of tunings. So it just opens up a whole new, world. Every time I play a different open tuning, it's like a new instrument almost, because you can, you have new chords that are open, notes that ring out, open strings, and you could play the same pattern in one tuning and then switch to another tuning, play the same pattern, same shapes, and it sounds completely different. And so there's a lot of advantages, but as far as the downside, you're a little bit locked into that tuning. You figure out which chord shapes work, and then you're kind of stuck with those, and then I'm ready to move on to the next tuning. So the good news is you can always change it up.
Do you have any favorite open tunings?
I have one that's like a C major 6 chord. So the low note is the low string is a C.
Okay, this is kind of a weird one, but do you have any aspirations for notoriety playing?
Pretty modestly. I mean, I wouldn't mind, having my music heard by a lot of people, but I don't need to be famous or a rock star. I think those days are in the past. Right now, and the way music is today, I mean, it's not really set up for that. You can be a pop sensation, but that's not me, obviously. So I just like to play music and have people who like my music, listen to it.
Well, with that in mind, what is the driving force behind why you would write a song? Like, can you put your finger on, like, what is the, you know, the motivation behind even starting to write something?
Well, lately it's been, if I want to get out and perform more, and in order to have something to perform, I have to write a song, so that kind of adds urgency. Otherwise, I don't feel a lot of urgency to do anything. I guess I'm lazy by nature, so I kind of need to push myself to write music and to keep writing music. Otherwise, I end up just writing these fragments of songs, and then I'll say, oh, that's a cool couple chords, and then I move on to the next thing and the next thing, and I have my phone. I record my ideas on my iPhone.
Voice memo?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And so I must have like 400 different ideas on there, and then I almost never go back and listen to them. I just always want to do the next thing. So just having, a reason to perform live and having music that, I can play something new, in front of an audience, that's kind of forcing me to write new music, in a good way. So this guitar is a high-tuned 12-string guitar. It's called a Griffin, and it's normally tuned like the 10th fret of a normal guitar, which would be a D, high D. So I changed the tuning on it, but it's in that range. And it kind of sounds like a mandolin, and because it's a real high sound. And each string is in unison, so they're not an octave apart like a normal 12-string would be, but it gives it like a real shimmery kind of sound.